Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back once again to JJ's PC Built. You know what it is. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to your family. Welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Built. I do see we got some new subscribers. Welcome to the community and the family. And my veteran subscribers, as always, much love to you for all that you do, watching videos from beginning to end and helping support the channel. And that does help support the channel. And also, too, telling your friends to come on down and subscribe to us so that way we can grow. Okay, today is going to be one of those days to where, you know, I got a good, somebody left me a message on one of my videos about pre-builds. Okay. They're having a little problem with their pre-built is that the fact of that it's a proprietary pre-built. Basically, like this one right here, this Livono, it's a proprietary pre-built. I'll say it right one time or another. But this is what the video is about today. The power supply. Now, I got that question asked to me about the power supply. What can I do to add a better power supply to a system like this? You know, something like this. In order for me to put in a graphics card that requires PCIe power connections like the 6+2s. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look inside this system here, and then I'm going to take y'all along, and then I'm going to give you some ideas on what you can do to modify the power in a PC like this. Now this is considered a small form factor. Okay, do keep that in mind. If you have a small form factor PC that, you know, that you have like a 180 watt power supply, but you have no PCIe connectors, you know, external power for your graphics card, then there might be a couple, I got about a couple ways for you. Okay, the first way that I would think that, you know, and if you know how to handle electronics, okay, now I'm gonna take and walk y'all through this really quick, and I'm gonna take this apart a little bit, so this way we can see into the system a little bit better. Okay. So let's go ahead and move this. Let's move this. Let's get this kind of pretty much set to where, you know, you all can see what I'm doing. So give me a moment and let me rear things. Okay. Give me a moment. Let me rear things around because I got everything all messed up around here. So, okay. Now that I moved everything around, I'm going to take and open this up, and I'm going to take and bring the camera down to where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now hopefully you can hear me. It looks like y'all can. Okay, now with the pre-built that's like this, here's your power supply here. Small form factor. Okay, now I would have to go online to see what I can do with this small form factor. Now, the next thing is you ask yourself, okay, well, I'll have to, we're going to go on Amazon. We're going to see if we can find a small form factor that will fit in here, you know, and see if we can make it work. Okay, another thing you're looking at is the power. The power right here, okay, the power plug itself. This PC does work, by the way, and it does not have a discrete graphics card. This will be something in the future that I'll be thinking about upgrading. So now you got your proprietary power. Okay. Now you got on the back, you got a blue line, could be a negative 3.3 or it could be a positive 3.3. You got your green, which would be your power on for your power supply. You got your 12 volt power, which will be your yellow power. And then you got on the back side, you got your black power for your ground. Okay, if you already know how to set up the powers on this, then you most likely can take and do a pin out on your power and pull the pins out on, some of these you can pull the pins out by going into the back, taking a small little widget in the back and pulling out each one of the legs for this. And then, make sure you mark down on a piece of paper where this clip is and where this top row is and where this bottom row is. Okay. The reason why I'm saying this is if you take a small form factor, let's say you got a 24 pin instead of having this, was it a 10 pin? Yeah, it's a 10 pin. You can take the pin out from this 10 pin and swap it out for the 24 pin. The powers, long as you match the power that's on each one of these pins to the new power supply, you can actually do a pin swap and swap the connector out onto the new power supply. If you want to save money and do it that way, this is just doing it this way is just a last resort. Okay. It's a last resort. Now, if you want to go find online, you want to go find this 10-pin connector, then, then you're more than happy to. Because not just that, is that you got two connectors that you got to worry about. This one's for the CPU. It's a 4-pin. You got two 12 volts and you got two grounds. Okay, you can find an adapter for this, and you can find an adapter for this. Okay, now looking through the rest of it, you're not really going to need an adapter for the the DVD drive. This has got a DVD drive. Okay, now you're not going to need a power connector for you're not going to need the power connector for your hard drive. So pretty much, really the only thing that you're going to need is for the 10-pin connector and the 4-pin connector. Okay. If you're doing a Livono small form factor like this. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to put all this back together. Okay, since I already know that I have enough connectors, because these connectors right here, these SATA connectors are not big enough to hold the power of your PCIe connection for your graphics card. So knowing this and knowing that the power supply itself, it says that it's 189 watts. It's a 189 watt power supply, which that's not going to be enough unless you get a 75 watt. If you got a 75 watt graphics card, with the external connection, then this one connector with the 6-pin connector would work if it's 75 watts. I would imagine this can handle up to 75 watts, but you're taking the power off of the motherboard since this is proprietary. Because, and the reason why they say it's proprietary is because the connections that you got in the front are all built in onto the motherboard. So that makes it proprietary. So it's all built in onto the motherboard. So the whole motherboard is just one piece. Now, if you wanted to get creative, now the buttons on the front and stuff, you can turn around and get a new button strip for the front and put an ITX motherboard in here if you wanted to do that with the 24 pin and a 6 pin on the motherboard. 6 pin for your CPU and 24 pin for the rest. And that way you can just use a small form factor power supply with 2 PCIe connectors, 6x2s, to plug in for your graphics card. Yes, I'm kind of hesitant, and this is my way of taking my time and not rushing through all this. Okay, but to know all this, what you can do with the small form factor, the one thing that will be different on, if you use a separate motherboard on this kind of case, is that the problem is that in the front, where my hand is, see my hand? In the front here, this is where the I/O shield would be in the front. And, you got your graphics card hooked up for the side. Now, what you could do, if you wanted to, you could take and turn the motherboard and put the I/O shield on this side and use a riser cable to plug in your graphics card. If you have enough room in this to do this. But if you don't, then it's not wise to do it. Then you're just best off to get a whole new case, a different motherboard, take your processor off what you have here and add it to the new motherboard, and then use your new power supply in your new case. Just the only thing that you're taking out of here would be your processor and your RAM. If you got decent RAM in this. If you don't, then you'll have to purchase new RAM. So, if you got a decent processor in here, this is 8th gen. This is the 86 or 8700. Okay, the i5 86 or 8700, somewhere in there. I can't keep track of everything, everybody, so we try to do our best. But knowing all this is a working PC. But if I were to put something, if I don't want to go through all that headache and everything else, then you get a video card without the PCIe connectors. Everything's built onto the graphics card. You can plug in a small form factor graphics card to this PC and go from there. And it doesn't need the power cables because it doesn't need it doesn't have the pins on it, the PCIe connection on it. So that would eliminate your problem right there. And usually those are about 75 watts anyway. So with 189 watt that you got off your original power supply, the total you might hit is about maybe 129, 130 watts, maybe 140 max. And this power supply would still handle it, but it all depends on if it's, 80 plus gold power supply, which this one is, and it should handle everything that you throw at it. It should be able to handle at least a 75 watt graphics card. This system right here. But if you don't want this kind of system, like I told you, there's many ways to do it. One, you can take and get, an adapter that goes to here, from here to 24 pin. And you can get one for here that goes from 6 pin to 4 pin. You can always do that. And that way, it eliminates your problem. Do remember, I meant this kind of plug in the female version, or male version, to the motherboard male version. Male version to the male that goes into the motherboard. Okay. You'd have to match the connectors and see if they have them out there. I'm sure they would have something like that out there. Going from 24 pin to 10 pin and going from 6 pin to 4 pin. So those are your two powers. If you're dealing with the Livono 8-gen system, this is pretty much what it looks like right there. So I'm going to slap this together really quick, so this way I get it out of my way so we go through the next part of the testing. Okay, so, I want to be able to take you guys from A to Z when it comes to something like this, for you to see. Oh my God, I got to use my head this morning. Oh. Okay. Taking a proprietary system and adding into it. Let me bring you up now. There we go. Taking this proprietary system and going and just, do it to it. Okay. But the thing is this, and a lot of people make this mistake. They're like, okay, well, I got this pre-built system that I bought that comes with, like a Hewlett Packard, a Dell, Livono, and all that, that comes with those freaky motherboards. I don't know why. See, what I don't understand is, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I know why I got my drink and snacks, by the way. Okay, let me slide this over. I don't know why Dell and Hewlett Packard and, all those big companies decided they want to do all one piece motherboard, instead of doing it in a fashion to where, you don't have an all-in-one piece, to where your front proprietaries on your plugins and your power button and stuff like that is separate, and you plug it in onto the motherboard. I don't know why they don't do it that way and do standard, ATX motherboards, and follow suit with everybody else. But, it is what it is. It's an older system, so basically, probably with the newer systems, I did see on a couple people did a couple reviews on the newer systems they did for Dell Alienware, that it was all built into one, on the motherboard, where you get the front I/O, the power button and stuff like that, all built in onto the motherboard. I looked at that and I said, no, that is not going to happen with me. So, okay. Now that we know what we're dealing with, okay, let's go ahead and go to the action screen. Right there. Let's open up DuckDuckYo. DuckDuckGo. Okay. So what we can do is we can go to Amazon. I'm taking y'all along with me, and this is not an edited video, so stay to the end. We'll do Amazon, and what we're going to do is we're going to see what's up on Amazon. Okay, you go to the all button, you go down here, like I always tell y'all, click on computers. Okay, PC power adapters. Let's see. For motherboard. Ten pin to 24 pin. Right here. Look at that. Oh my God, for 10 bucks. For 10 bucks, let's have a look at it. 24, 10 pin. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Look at that. Right off the bat, 10 bucks. So basically, for 10 bucks, they give you all that right there to have a peek at. And you can match it up to the connector. Now looking at right here. Looking at that connector compared to the connector I got on this right here, they look identical. So, wow. So for 10 bucks, I can switch to, now I know I can go up to a standard power supply, a small form factor standard power supply. Now, what I'm going to have to do is, now that I know I can get that, we need to go from 4 pin to 6 pin. So I hope y'all are, keeping an eye out about that. So we go from 4 pin to 6 pin. Or better yet, I better go from 6 pin to 4 pin. CPU to 4 pin CPU. Will you look at that? Will you look at that? 4 plus 4 detachable. No. 4 pin, 4 plus 4 EPS. Okay, so 6 pin male. No. 6 pin male to 4 pin male. Wait a minute, no. 6 pin female. Okay. Four plus four, that will work. Huh. Nice. So all in all, to convert it over, that'll cost about $20. Okay. So now that we went through that, and we've seen what we need to see, now we know we got the adapters. Now we know we can get the adapters off of Amazon. Okay, so now we're looking for SFF PC. Small form factor PC power supply Livono. Let's see what we can come up with. Well, we know that it's going to be $50. Okay. With PCIe power. Let's see what we can come up with. Oh, that's going to be a difficult kind of thing. Huh. I got a 240 watt. That would fit it, but I could convert that and get an additional 75 off of that. I can get an additional 75 to 100 watts off of that connector. So if I got a graphics card that pulls less than 150 watts, I could make that work right there for $42. So for $60, I can do a conversion on that and add in a discrete graphics card. If I wanted to go on the cheap, okay, if I wanted to go in on the cheap. So let's do this. Let's do an SFX PSU. I know I can fit an SFX in there. Yeah, see, $89, 450 watts. Got this one right here for 65, 550 watts. This might be a good one that you can think about doing too. You know, 550 watt EVGA power supply. You can do that too and use those connectors, and you can get around that that little burper. Probably you can get away with doing the $69 one too. They got this one for 80 plus bronze. They got a $45 one. let's see, let's go a little bit further and see if they got any more. We can see the whole purpose of this is to find out what we can do to, to have minimal cost. You can do this 500 watt power supply right here. This one right here for $40, in that kind of system, because, you got to look at it too. You got a small form factor, so you're going to need a small form factor GPU. But this kind of system looks like it can handle something a little bit bigger than small form factor. So do keep that in mind. Always look and see if you can do it on the cheap. This one right here, that's 400 watts. I wouldn't go this far to 300 watt. Save yourself the headache. We got this one right here for 300 watts. Could be, let's say you get a graphics card that's small form factor that has, let's just look at this one right here. Let's see, 90 watts, 12 volt, 240 watts. So looks like it's got some decent connectors in there. Yeah. Looks like it's got some decent connectors in there. If you want to go on the cheap, you can get those two those two adapters, and then you can get something like this and go 300 watts, and then get another adapter for the PCIe connection, depending on, and looking at it, with it having Molex connectors, that would give you a better advantage, because the Molex connectors are thicker wire connectors that you can use. That would give you a better power source if you use adapters for your graphics card. So you can think about using that too. Use the Molex connectors for that. So keep that in mind. If you want to go 300 watts, you can do the 300 watt, or you can go the 400 watt, So there's many options that you have when it comes to, doing this. So, if you're looking for PCIe power to Molex, say they got it right here. PCIe power for $9. So you can go from PCIe to Molex, or if you want to go to SATA, they got that too. So it looks like they got a 3-pack right here, SATA pack, and there's 6 pins. So it looks like it's a good deal. Or you can get the 6+2s, which I would recommend you get the 6+2s, because that way you have a better advantage if you want to do it that way too. So, 6+2s are a lot better, gives you advantage depending on what kind of socket you have. If you have a 6-pin socket, usually your graphics cards come with 6-pin sockets. Some come with 8-pin sockets. So you want to have the 6+2 is to give you that advantage when you want to go that route. Okay. Now that I took you through looking at all the adapters you can find off of Amazon, you can go on eBay, you can go to any site that you want to find them for on the cheap. And usually you can find those adapters on the cheap anywhere you go. So that's pretty much what it comes down to. So if you do have a proprietary motherboard, you can go on any site, say it's Hewlett Packard, and you need the certain adapter. So you type it all in, what you need, and see what you come up with. Just like I did. I typed everything in. Like going from, one to the other. So it's not hard to search it up on the internet. Especially if you got one of those motherboards that have 10 pins on them. I know it's a pain in the butt, but if you don't want to go through, you want to keep the same motherboard, but you want to add in a graphics card, a discrete graphics card, then you have to take in consideration, when you upgrade your power supply, that the 24 pin is not the same as a 10 pin or a 12 pin or whatever pins they got for the motherboard. So basically you got to step down the 24 pin down to whatever pin the motherboard has and get that adapter, or change out the motherboard completely. As you're only spending, now with the adapters, you probably only spend like $20 for the adapters. If you already got the power supply, you'll spend $20 for the adapters and you'll be done with it. So if you're going to go that route, there's different power supplies that you can get that will fit inside of your case. Now, if you don't want to switch your case, then, you might want to think about a power supply that's going to fit into the exact case you have. If not, it's not going to work. So basically, you're just going to shoot yourself into the foot. Okay. Taking that proprietary motherboard into a bigger case, you're going to have to do a lot of modifying for that to go from point A to point B into a bigger case. So you do keep that in mind when you want to go from one to the other. You're going to have to modify that case heavy to do that. Now, if you're going to go as far as spending $50 to get yourself a new case, then you might as well do it outright and turn around and get you a new motherboard that handles your processor, that has upgradability, that's upgradable. Now, let's say you got a 12th gen processor in your PC right now, but it's using one of those special proprietary motherboards, like a Hewlett Packard or something like that. And, you're tired of the case, you're tired of the motherboard, but you have like 64 gigs of RAM on it, just hypothetically. You already have DDR4 64 gigs put it on the motherboard. The things that you can switch out is, if you don't like the case, then get a new case that you like. If you don't like the motherboard, then turn around and get yourself a new motherboard, one that's, within an overclockability kind of thing. But if your processor is not overclockable, now, and I'm going to state this, if your processor, and you do your research on your processor, if your processor is not overclockable, it makes no sense to get an overclockable motherboard unless you're going to change your processor to a better processor. So you're basically best off to build a whole new PC from scratch and get a processor you want that's overclockable that will get you where you need to go. But if you don't want to deal with the overclocking and everything else, and you just want one set, click, turbo, done kind of system, to where you don't have to mess with the power, you don't have to mess with the cooling, you don't have to mess with anything else, you have everything that you need right there, then you don't have to worry about an overclockable motherboard or an overclockable processor, which the computer program itself, Windows, will set, with the BIOS, it will take it all the way up to its maximum output. But when that happens and you try to think you're getting the maximum output of your processor, you're not going to get it with the turbo formula from Intel. They're going to give you right up to a certain point, and then it's going to be chopped right there. You're not going to get the full potential of your processor. That's the reason why I say, if you're going to take and you want to get the max out of your processor, then, you're thinking about getting an AIO cooler, a 240 or a recommended 360 AIO cooler that you want to put into your case, if your case can hold it. See, now you're going into building a whole new PC at this point if the one that you got isn't rocking the way you want it to rock. Okay. So let's say you got a SATA SSD drive, but you wanted M.2, but your motherboard can't handle an M.2. There are plug-in cards that you can plug in through the PCIe connector that will give you an M.2 drive. But let's say you don't want to cobble anything together. You just want to do it just correctly. Okay. I am spending this couple more minutes with you all to get you all to understand when you got a pre-built system, okay, some pre-builts will have all standard parts in the pre-built to where you can have a lot of upgradability with those. But like your Dell and your Hewlett Packard, your Livonos and stuff like that, Gateway and, and so on. We'll have motherboards that are the power button and everything's built onto the motherboard, which makes the motherboard twice as wide. And you're not going to be able to fit it into any other case but that case. Okay, you can't take that motherboard, like this PC I showed you here, I can't take this motherboard out and stick it into another case, not unless I heavily modify the case to fit that motherboard. I have to heavily modify a case if I want a bigger case to fit this motherboard. Now, if I'm going to go through all that trouble of modifying a case and everything else, I might as well just get one that's already done, get myself another motherboard, which I can go on to eBay and get me a used motherboard that will handle the 8th gen processor and plug it all in, and and that way I won't need to worry about what kind of power supply I need. So now I got a new case, and in the new case I got an 8th gen processor with a discrete graphics card with, let's say, 1,000 watt power supply, which is overkill. which it depends on, or if you want to, like the 7800 XT or the RTX 4070, at least in that, in that new case, you can put a bigger graphics card in that with that processor. And also, too, you can take the processor on the new motherboard that can handle up to a certain amount of gigabytes of RAM. Now, this motherboard right here only handles 16 gigs of RAM. Okay. And I can get me another motherboard that can handle up to 32 and 64 gigs of RAM. So that would be a better outlook than to have something that's not going to be able to handle the amount of RAM I want to use. And plus the motherboard being locked. But with this, it's best off just, the way I have this, it's best off to get a small form factor discrete graphics card, plug it in. One without the connector. That only draws up to 75 watts. It's basically, this is like a business type computer. This 8th gen processor, I would never think about using it for gaming, which you could. I could probably get a small form factor 5700 XT and put it into this case. But then that comes to the fact of then I'm going to need a bigger power supply. So, stuff like that, you have to keep this in mind. If you're trying to upgrade your pre-built and your pre-built doesn't have all standard parts in it, then you might as well build yourself a brand new one from scratch. Honesty. I'm telling you this from straight up. You're not going to be happy with the performance you're going to get off of the current motherboard you have. If it's built in like a Hewlett Packard or something like that, you're not going to get the performance you want out of that BIOS. And, you look at the fact of how much it would cost you if you decided you wanted to do an upgradability to where you build your own. I can tell you, if you go to buy a gaming PC, a PS5 or, the newest Xbox or something like that, you're looking to have it fully decked out and everything. You're looking between $500 and $600. But with the PC, you have an upgradability that's bigger than a PS5 or an Xbox or whatever, to where you can take your PC to the next level without having to worry about going and breaking something inside, basically, your system. Me, on the other hand, I don't like those gaming consoles myself, is because the upgradability really sucks on them. And, with those thin traces they got on those pads and everything else, it's just like you can break the whole thing in a matter of minutes. And then guess what? You're out $500 if you don't know what you're doing. So I'd rather not go that route. So keep that in mind. But the whole purpose of me telling you this is because that's $500-$600. Okay, for $500 to $600, you can build yourself a great PC for $500 to $600. Or you can take your, you probably got a PC in, let's say you got a PC in your closet that you haven't used for years, but it's got a great case and everything else, but the motherboard's out of date and, you really don't have much going on with that. Well, switch out the motherboard. And if the RAM's still good and it's up, the speed on the RAM's really good, then use the RAM out of there. If the processor that you have in there is an overclockable processor, then use it on an overclocking motherboard. the newer motherboard. Remember, I'm always going to say this. The motherboard is the heart of the PC. Okay. Now, the processor's the brain of the PC, and then, you got your system RAM, which is the bloodline of the PC. I've said this many a times to everybody. And your eyes and your ears is your discrete graphics card. So, when you put it all together and, you have upgradability with the new motherboard, and it has a couple M.2 drives on it, and so that way you can have as much storage as you want. See, the reason why I'm not using a pre-built is because the simple fact upgradability is limited. It is very limited in those cases, unless you use and you spend a lot of time and money to modify the case. It's just not worth it. It really isn't. Now, back years ago with the PCs, they're all standard cases. They all had, the I/O stuff in the front was always on the plugs. You can always plug it into any motherboard that, that would fit with it and never have a problem. So, look, if you're just trying to upgrade your, power supply, then if it fits in your case, then go on Amazon and find the adapters and plug the adapters in and go from there. This way you can convert from proprietary power supply to a standard power supply. Simple said and put. I'm just giving you many examples and many ways you can go about this. When it comes to your pre-built systems. So power supply is not hard to change. It's just finding the right power supply to fit in the case. That's the biggest difference in the world, is to find the power supply that's going to fit in the case, to see if they got a power supply out there with the PCIe connectors, that fits in the case, small form factor, whatever, and go from there. So follow those tips and you'll be great off. So, but that's my conclusion to this video. And if you made it to the end, it is much appreciated that you made it and stayed all the way to the end. But if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And my veteran subscribers, as always, much love to you for all that you do. Helping, watching the videos from beginning to end, and telling your friends to come on down here and subscribe. And having them watch the videos from beginning to end. That's killer. And don't forget to put thumbs ups on my videos. That would tell YouTube, hey, we're starting to get popular. It's time to push our videos out there. So that's the reason why we're having a hard time right now getting subscribers, is because YouTube's not pushing my videos out there like I wanted them to. I caught that. I went up onto my friend's phone the other day to see if my video came through. And sure enough, it wasn't even posted. Front and center. I guess YouTube didn't post my new video front and center. For, to see if, and they were subscribed. So please put a thumbs up and everything else and help us out here. Let's try to get to the 1,000 mark. We got a little time left to get to the 1,000 mark. And do remember, now that we went past our 1 year mark, okay, the time that, the time everybody watching the videos and everything else is dwindling. So basically, YouTube goes from 365 days in 1 year. And then within that 1 year, that's the amount of time, the watch time hours you have. So whatever I had before then, that's gone. So, we're losing watch time hours if we don't get to 1,000 subscribers. Just to let you know, if you want to help us get there, then help us get there by putting the word out, and letting everybody know to come on down and help us out. We do have Discord. If you need to get on Discord, just leave a comment down below, and I'll leave you the link to the Discord channel so you can go and join us there on Discord as well. So, and on Twitter X, we're up on Twitter X too. So if you want to join us on Twitter X, we are there as well. JJ's PC Builds at Twitter. So, but until the next time and the next video, this is JJ and JJ's PC Builds. We will see you on the next one.